Welcome to the only wrestling podcast that covers the WWE developmental system from its inception to modern day. From OVW to MCW to HWA, Deep South, FCW, and much more. Hosted by Brian Asbury and Mortimer Blankenship. Now let's dive into what could have been, what should have been. Welcome to Developmentally Speaking.
Today's episode is about none other than Kenny, the StarMaker Bolin. Today we have Kenny Bolin with us. We're going to talk a little bit about the StarMaker and his time in OVW and Bolin services.
Well, you already have proven. You've already proven you got no clue what you're doing, because not only do you have Kenny the StarMaker Bolin, you got two cow. You got two cow in the background licking his butt during the show. And I'm sure Scooby will probably be wandering around before the show's over. And my fireplace is starting to get cranking up over here. It's starting to get warm in here.
Yeah. That's a big fireplace you got there.
That is a big fireplace. That's one of the biggest ones in the country right there. As a matter of fact, here's the thing. That is actually setting in front of a real fireplace. I just haven't hung the sumbitch yet, but it's setting directly in front of a... This house was built in the late 1890s, and there's three fireplaces in here, one in the bedroom, one in the spare bedroom, and one here in the living room. And but they've all been boarded up because it lets in a lot of cold air during the winter. So
yeah, they will for sure.
We're going with a virtual fireplace today.
Yeah, we have one of these little heat surges in the corner of this room right now. It puts off a lot of heat. I like it.
Where are you guys located at?
Seymour, Indiana. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Oh, you're up there in Rip Rogers country then.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. The old Ripper.
I didn't realize you guys were so close. I'd have made you come down here and buy me dinner.
Yeah.
Well, we will sometime.
For sure.
If I'd only known. Now, of course, you all know I had the Honky Tonk Man on yesterday, and he's doing a show New Year's night in Mitchell, Indiana. How far is that from you guys?
That's just a hop, skip, and a jump.
I figured it was real close. Honky Tonk Man, I think he's doing a show with Madman Pondo. Now, whether he's wrestling Pondo that night or not, I don't know, but...
Okay.
He says he's getting in the ring one more time, so it's going to be the first time he's been in the ring in 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So that ought to be a special night. You guys will have to get over there and check out the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, that's relatively close.
I haven't seen an advertisement.
By the way, I am the only person he follows on Twitter. Y'all can fact check that here right after the show if you like.
Only person he follows on Twitter. That is
the
awesome.
only, but not Jerry the King Lawler, his cousin, not Jimmy Hart, his former manager, not Jimmy Cornette, not Danny Davis, me. So that's got to tell you a little something right there.
That's why you're the king.
Two cows impressed. You can tell by the look on his face.
So Kenny, what year did you start down in OVW, and how did you get started in Ohio Valley Wrestling?
Well, actually, I started in pro wrestling in 1987 when I was recruited out of service merchandise by Nick Goulas. And that led to me doing a little backstage work with Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling. A little backstage work at TBS Studios when Jimmy was in Atlanta. I would go down there and be backstage, and nothing I was getting paid for, just just helping out where I could and with what I could. And Smoky Mountain paid a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And then we finally started making some money when I got recruited by Ohio Valley Wrestling. God, I think in November of '96. And went over there. Actually, they gave me a format to be able to make some pretty good money by selling the television show to sponsors. We were making some decent money then, but then when the WWE contract came up, when Jim Cornette negotiated the developmental deal, he wanted to leave and WWE wanted to get rid of him. So it seemed to be a match made in heaven to get Jimmy to come to Louisville, get him out of the hair of everybody up there. He was happy. They were happy. And who would have ever dreamed that we would develop so much talent out of that old shitty building there in on Mechanic Street in Jeffersonville, Indiana. But when Jim Ross came down, he said, if you all could send us up 1 star a year, we would be thrilled. 2 would be amazing, and 3 would be unbelievable. That was their original goal, was to get 1 or 2 stars a year out of Ohio Valley Wrestling.
And y'all blew that out of the water.
Yeah, that got blown out of the water. I personally sent 54 out of Bowlin services because my job was to train and develop the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And I think as a company, we sent close to 150.
That's awesome.
138 was the last number I heard. I'm sure we sent a few more than that, but 138 was the last number I heard, and 54 of those guys were mine. I will point out that the ones that stuck and have made money and that are still there, every single one of them, except for Batista, were my guys. Or they feuded with me to get their fame, like a Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, people like that. Batista feuded with us as well, but he was at least managed by Sin. The other ones had no managers.
Yeah.
So the way to make it to the WWE was either be in Bowlin services or be feuding with Bowlin services. That was your two ways to get there.
That is legit. I remember watching it when I was younger, and of course my dad hated you, and I was always a mark for the heels. So I loved you, of course, and it was
my stepdad hated the heels, and I was a big Jerry Lawler fan starting in about 1972. And my stepdad would get so furious he'd turn the TV off, and then I'd have to go down into my room and watch the rest of the show in black and white because he hated Jerry Lawler so bad. So yeah, I went through the same thing with my stepdad.
Yeah, but I can relate to how you're saying. You help train and develop the heels, because I've primarily worked a lot at Supreme Wrestling in Madison, Indiana, and and with Eric Draven down there, and
I've heard of him.
Yeah, we and that's typically my favorite thing to do. Now that I've been doing it for about 12 years, I'm getting to the point where my favorite thing to do is to help the new guys develop their heel character, and I really respect that about you. That so many people that you had under your wing, they made it there. And they made money and made a name for themselves.
And they're still making huge money. Randy Orton and I didn't always see eye to eye when he was here, but we patched up our differences at Six Flags probably around 2005 or so, give or take. He punched somebody in the mouth. I forget who it was, but he punched somebody in the mouth, and we were thrilled with that. I think it was one of the OVW boys. I think it was Ken Doan, who I used to manage, who has my birthday, and Ken, when he was here, didn't get it. I hear he's doing better now. When he was here, he had trouble understanding what we were doing and what the deal was. I remember the maddest I ever got at him is backstage. He found out he was going to lose the main event match that night. So he called his girlfriend out in the crowd, who my son happened to be sitting by. He called her out in the crowd. And he says, "Honey, you can go on home. They got me losing tonight. I can't believe I'm losing to this guy." And so he smartens his girlfriend up as to what's going on. Chris overheard the call. And when Jimmy found out about that, he was not, and I wasn't too happy about it either, that he's calling his girlfriend, "Well, I'm going to lose, so you go home." If I told everybody in the building to go home on nights we were going to lose, we'd have had empty buildings quite a bit.
I hear that, yeah.
And he was only 19 years old, but in his head, he thought he was the biggest star in the business and was a 15-year veteran. So,
I think my wife likes seeing my guys lose more than seeing them win anyway. So,
well, you might be onto something there.
Do you think
I didn't realize they were still running shows in Madison. Did they run shows during all the COVID time?
They did. They had a slowdown.
Wait a minute. They were running shows for 2 years during COVID.
They had a slowdown. And they followed all.
I would hope.
They followed all.
Well, it is Indiana, the land of Mike Pence. So God knows what you guys were doing.
They followed all the guidelines. They had social distancing. They had masks available. They did a really good job. It was actually quite impressive. All the
because OVW, from what I understand, they basically shut down for nearly 2 years.
All the workers had to have tests and everything.
Well, Kentucky was actually much stricter than Indiana was. I mean, the Republican governors tried to ignore COVID for God knows how long. I'm shocked they made you all wear masks. And we have a Democratic governor, even though this is a Republican state by probably 2/3. But, at least they had respectable governor who would enforce the law. So as a matter of fact, Ohio Valley was going to move to Florida because they had that crazy ass Rick DeSantos down there who still to this day doesn't think COVID exists. And they were going to move down there. So I guess that point's off the books now. I haven't heard the Florida thing being talked about lately.
Do you think the younger talent was a lot harder to deal with especially when they're getting signed so young in OVW, like when
Well,
you had them in
well,
Bolin services.
it was a different world. Honky Tonk Man and I talked about this last night about how back in his day, the business's job was to run off people, beat the shit out of them, put them through just ridiculous bullshit, which I never ever agreed with before I was in the business or after. To run off talent. Danny Davis was the only one that survived his training camp with Buddy Fuller and Jerry Jarrett. He was beaten on a daily basis by Tojo and Buddy Fuller and various others. And he was the only one that made it through the camp. And Honky Tonk Man last night said, I wonder how many Rocks, how many Stone Cold Steve Austins, how many Hulk Hogans were ran off. Big guys that could have drew money because the veterans back then wanted to run off talent and only keep those that would stick through anything, like a Danny Davis or maybe a Chris Benoit or somebody like that. Somebody that would want to go through something like the Dungeon. And so a lot of people want to respect the Dungeon. And this is going to piss the Hart family off, I have absolutely no respect for it because it was made to hurt people. It was made to only keep people that were beat freaks, that actually enjoy getting hurt. Well, the wrestling business is not about getting hurt. The wrestling business is living to fight another day and another day and another day. And back in the Memphis territories, they were working 8 shows in 7 days. In the Carolinas, they were working 8 shows in 7 days. A day off was considered a luxury. And then if you did get one, you was working twice on Saturday and maybe twice on Sunday. Day shows and night shows. So no, the business has dramatically turned. Now, on the negative side, you had guys coming in that were paying absolutely no dues whatsoever, whether they knew anything or not. I didn't pay any dues because, fortunately, I was absorbing information from the best. I was learning from Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett, Bill Dundee, Dutch Mantell, people like that. Those were the people that I hung around with, especially Jerry Lawler. And my goal, when I decided I didn't want to take bumps every night or bleed or be in barbed wire matches and stupid shit like that, I decided, well, I'll be the Jerry Lawler of managers. I'll be the king of managers. That was my goal almost from day one. I even had to talk Nick Goulas out of making me a wrestler. He says, I'm going to make you the next Jerry Lawler. I said, well, why would I do that? We already have one. He doesn't show any signs of retiring anytime soon. And that was in 1986, and he's still wrestling. Yeah. So I said, what I would rather be is the king of managers, the king of commentators. I'm not that fond of taking bumps that are potentially going to cripple me. So that was what I preferred to do. Nick Goulas let me take the path that I wanted. So I was his television host, and I was also his manager and ring announcer and everything that didn't require taking too many bumps. And I don't think I took any serious bumps until I got to OVW, and I'd take one about every 4 months, So
that's kind of like me.
Face this pretty is all I can tell you.
I always enjoyed you and Dean Hill on commentary. It was always good.
We were a good team. Dean and I thought worked together better, and Dean will tell you this too, than him and Cornette or than him and Jimmy. Me and Jimmy were a good team because I would not let Jimmy run over me, and he knew that wasn't going to happen. Dean was respectful to Jimmy, so Dean would let Jimmy run over him. So if you ever listen to a Dean Hill, Jimmy Cornette commentary, you'll hear Jimmy talking 85% of the time. Mm-hmm. With Dean, I had no problem talking 40% of the time because let Dean set everything up. And then my job as a color commentator is to come in and knock it out of the park in defense of the heels. Mm-hmm. There was no need for me to talk 80% of the show. If I'd have done that, I'd have been the fucking play-by-play guy. Mm-hmm. Right. But Jimmy wanted to be the play-by-play guy, the color guy, the interview guy, the in-ring guy. He wanted to do everything. And poor Dean Hill just didn't have much to do with Jimmy there. And when he did say something, Jimmy would critique him after the show and make him feel bad. So it got to the point where Dean almost didn't even want to say anything during the shows. And I'll guarantee you, Dean, even though we've had our differences, I wanted them to help Rico when he was down and out, and Danny and Dean refused to help. And Cornette wasn't going to help. I had to shame him into it, and he finally did. But we ended up raising over $10,000 to help save Rico's life, basically is what it did. And Rico will be the first to tell you that. And but I guarantee you, even with any differences me and Dean Hill had, I'll guarantee you he will tell you that he enjoyed working with me more than he enjoyed working with Cornette because he got to do his job. And I understood what Dean's job was.
Oh yeah, I always enjoyed you and Rico Constantino down in OVW. Was he the
Yeah,
first? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he the first developmental talent they sent down there?
um, actually, the first developmental talent they sent was Bull Buchanan.
Okay.
Yeah, Bull Buchanan was the first one that I sent to WWE. Now he might be the first one that came from somewhere other than WWE. Bull had already been up in WWE for a bit, and it wasn't going well. So they sent Bull to me. Mark Henry had been up there. It wasn't going well, so they sent Mark Henry to me. They sent Big Show down here to feud with us, and Rico came in upon that mix. But he was probably the first one to come from Bassman's camp, or I know Cena was working out with Bass. I can't remember if Rico was with Bassman or not, because Rico only had 12 matches when he got here. So,
wow.
But he was in that first class of people. I'll give you that. Yeah, he got here in 1999.
His work was just, I thought.
Drinking my grape soda, in case you guys are wondering what I'm drinking. It's actually got 220 calories. A regular Coca-Cola only has 140 calories. So this has got 80 more calories than a sugared Coca-Cola. But I normally drink Coke Zero, so I enjoy one of these about every 3 days. So today is the day.
Got to treat yourself every now and again.
Grape soda.
What's that? How is Rico doing these days?
Doing great. He's going to be doing a new segment on my show. He chimed in last night during the Honky Tonk Man show, and he said that Rico told me he had a title match, a EFW title, whatever the hell they're called. He had a title match with Rico early in his career, and then Honky Tonk said he saw a lot in him, that he looked like a young Rick Martel, which I never thought of that before, but he did. He looked a lot like Rick Martel. I didn't even think about that till last night. Even almost the same hairstyle. But Rico's going to be doing he's a cop now out in Las Vegas, and he chimed in my show the other night, and he's filming the Las Vegas Strip, showing me shows and beggars and whatever the hell's going on there on the Strip. So we decided to make that a regular segment on the show. It's going to be called On the Beat with Rico. Okay. And either once a week or once every 2 weeks, he's going to go live for about 15 minutes and interview, or let me interview, however we're going to do it, tourists there on the Vegas Strip, and make it a part of the show. What's going on, and we're just going to make it a regular segment starting. If not later this week, we're going to start it next week.
Oh, so good. I love it.
But Rico's doing great. He looks real good.
Good. So, Bowlin Services. There's been many incarnations of Bowlin Services. What was your favorite group of guys?
Well, the favorite would obviously be the first, because we had no idea how this thing was going to work. We didn't know who was going to get sent up. We didn't know who was going to be a big star. We had a feeling Cena was going to be. As far as the rest of them go, obviously when Brock Lesnar came in, it was obvious he was going to be a star. Shelton Benjamin had all the potential in the world, and he's still up there to this day. And you got to remember, he was in that first class of either 99 or early 2000 as well. But the original Bolin Services had, of course, Mr. Black. He was the first ever member, Jack Black. Then we added Jerome Croney as my bump taker. I had to beg Jimmy to let him do that. Croney kept wanting to be, he was the American Eagle or something like that. And he wanted to be my assistant manager. He says, Bolin, you don't like taking bumps. He says, why don't I take all your bumps for you? And Croney was probably the best bump taker in OVW. So I had to beg Jimmy for like 3 or 4 weeks to let Croney come aboard, and he was a fixture after that. We couldn't get rid of him. And he was the bump taker, the assistant manager, and then we added Thurston Throckmorton, who was my attorney. We added head nurse Lulu. We added Miss Blue. We had so many sub-managers. Sosei was a sub-manager there for a little bit. And we had basically spin-off managers to do the shit that I didn't want to do. And Croney got the bulk of that. But the original class of me, Mr. Black, Croney, Thurston Throckmorton, and then that led to Bull Buchanan, Mark Henry, Rico Constantino, John Cena, Sylvester Turkey, and that was the original core group. If I'm leaving anybody out, I'm sorry, but that was the original core group, and every one of those people went on to make big money in one way or another. Yes. Mr. Black didn't get called up, but those that were intended to get called up got called up.
Sylvester, I always enjoyed Sylvester back then when he was with you.
Sly Turkey, his nickname was Bear, and he trained my son in martial arts and fighting. And he was probably the toughest son of a bitch ever to come through OVW, but also the nicest guy.
Really?
And Brock Lesnar and I had a confrontation after a show once where he thought I kissed his girlfriend. And it was just, I've told the story 100,000 times, but it was just like a Hollywood kiss. And Brock had been to my house more times than I could count. His girlfriend would come over with him. And I always kissed her on the cheek goodnight. It was back in the day you could do that and not get sued in court. And so I didn't want to kiss her that night because I was hot and sweaty. We were at the Boys Club on Mutual Bank. And it was about 112 degrees in there that night. All they had was a big, giant circular fan. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't want her to touch me because I was soaked in sweat. And I didn't want to soak her in sweat. So I just put my arms around her, not touching her, and gave her the Hollywood kiss on the cheek. Fuck, I kissed her from 4 feet away. And Brock came in a mood. He was all roided up back then. Okay, back then. And he said, "Don't you ever kiss my girlfriend again." I said, so I thought he was putting on a show for what fans were lingering around. Mm-hmm. So I go, "Oh, no, Brock, no, not me. Don't worry about me." So he's really mad. He says, "No, I told you, you son of a bitch. Don't you ever fucking touch my girlfriend again." I said, "Brock, I didn't touch her." I said, "God damn, I'm soaked in sweat. I wouldn't put her through that." He's getting up in my face and everything. And I said, "Brock," I said, "I told you I didn't fucking touch her." I said, "Shit, what's the matter with you?" And his girlfriend looks at him and she says, "Brock says he never touched me." And he looked at her. He said, "Shut up, bitch. You know better." I said, "Oh, shit." So she wasn't with him much longer after that. No. And like a week. she wasn't around long. And so he pie-faced me and I didn't go down. And my son ran down to the locker room to get Sly Turkey, and he was back up in fucking 45 seconds. And Sly came up. He said, "I don't know what the problem is, man." He said, "But do you want to fight somebody?" He said, "Fight somebody your size." He says, "I'll fight you." And Brock turned and walked away. So Bear backed him down, and which didn't make him look too good. And then Cornette found out about it. I didn't have to tell him. All the boys had called him, said, "Man," said, "fucking Brock put his hands on Kenny. That's bullshit." So they ratted him out, and then Brock Lesnar had to call me at home that night and apologize. So the phone rings, and Jimmy had already asked me for confirmation. I said, "Yeah." I said, "All that happened." And he said, "He put his hands on you." I said, "He did." And he said, "You didn't go down?" I said, "I think that's what made him mad is I didn't go down." And he said, "Well, let me call Brock." He said, "This shit's going to get fixed right now." So Brock calls me about 30 minutes later. "Kenny?" I said, "Yeah." "This is Brock." I said, I know who it is. I've got caller ID. He says, "Well, I had a talk with Cornette." And I said, "Uh-huh. Well, he told me I need to call you and tell you that I was sorry." I said, "Uh-huh. All right. Well, I'm sorry, Kenny." I said, "Yeah, but don't ever touch my girlfriend again." So I called Cornette back. I said, he had to get in. "Don't ever touch my girlfriend again." He said, obviously he didn't learn shit. So Jimmy got in at TV. And but yeah, he wanted to think he was right, that he was defending the honor of his girlfriend, who told him I didn't touch her. So I don't know if he remembers it that way or not, and I don't know if he still holds a grudge or not. But supposedly when he's in town, he tells people to tell me hello. So it was a scary time because there's some people in the wrestling business I could whip, but Brock Lesnar wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
Right. So, as a professional wrestling manager, I'm sure you have heard over the years many, many different insults. If you could
I've heard of you.
If you could go through your Rolodex of insults that you've heard, what would be your favorite? What almost made you pop? What or break in front of everybody?
It wasn't really a fan that said it because the fans, aren't that smart. If they were smarter than me, they would be doing my job. Probably the best one that was ever zinged on me that got me off guard. And fortunately, I didn't laugh on camera for it. And my eyes are killing me today, guys, so bear with me. Bobby Heenan and I are doing a segment in the ring. And Bobby they're basically to put me over. He's passing the torch. He's got a gift for me and all this stuff. And you can look this up on YouTube. Just type in Kenny Bowlin, Bobby Heenan, and you'll see the segment. And Bobby Heenan, and we didn't rehearse shit. It was making Bobby sick that he saw people backstage rehearsing their shit. And he says, "Kenny," he says, "well, we got like a 12-minute segment out there later. I said, yeah. He says, do we need to rehearse? I said, I hope not. And I said, what do you want to do? He says, we'll just play it by ear when we get out there. He said, the gist of it, I'm here to pay honor to you. I've got a gift for you. And when I give you the gift, you'll know what to do. And I said, all right, sounds good to me. I said, we got 12 minutes to fill. I said, I think we can handle it. So that was the only preparation we had. He's got a gift and he's going to put me over. So we're out there. And of course, he's putting me over and he's letting me know how great I am. And I said, well, I appreciate you acknowledging that, Bobby. I said, because a lot of people refer to you as maybe the greatest manager of all time, you and Jimmy Cornette. And Cornette had already been fired then or suspended or whatever, but he wasn't there. And I said, so when I hear these accolades being passed out of you and Cornette being in the greatest man, I said, now you might be in the top 5. I said, but Cornette, I said, don't even crack the top 10. I don't know if he's in the top 25. I said, I am the greatest manager of all time. I'm the one who's produced the most talent. And that's why you're here paying accolades to me. So Bobby gets up in my face and he goes, woo! And he's wiping the air away and everything. I look at him, I said, pardon me? He says, God, is the rodeo in town? I'm looking at him, the rodeo. Whoa, it smells like the rodeo's been in town. So he's making an insult about my breath about the rodeo being in town. He said, I bet you've been around Ric Flair because Ric Flair does it. Woo! He said, I bet that's where Ric Flair got that, was basically sniffing your breath. So, and I wasn't looking for that one to be coming. And he almost got me. That was about as close as anybody ever got me. But no, most of the Mark fans were too stupid to ever get a zinger in on me. So I didn't ever worry about that. The day the fans are getting the best of you is the day that you need to have a seat and let them have your job.
Yeah, I hear that. I've had.
What's the worst one? What's the worst insult a fan ever got on you? Now, of course, I heard Porky all the time and Fat Boy, because hell, at one point I got up near 600 pounds. So
Pillsbury.
So I heard every fat joke in the world, of course. But
yeah. If you wear a blue suit, they call you a blue whale.
Yeah, well, that was John Bradshaw Layfield gave me that name. I wasn't a fan. See, once again, it was people that were as smart or maybe even a little. No, well, let's not say smarter. Almost as smart as me, and that would be John Bradshaw Layfield, who just had his birthday the 29th. Him and Jerry Lawler and Dutch Mantell all have the exact same birthday. Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
Well,
all three, same birthday, November 29th. Of course, I knew Lawler's, and I didn't know Dutch and I are dear friends as well, and I didn't know that he had the same birthday till a few weeks ago. And then I found out yesterday that JBL has the same birthday as all three. So that was pretty cool. But no, JBL nicknamed me the Blue Whale, and it kind of stuck. So anytime I'd wear that blue suit, that's all I would hear was I was the Blue Whale.
Wow.
Kenny,
so you're thinking these fans are so smart, and apparently not. The best zingers always came from the wrestlers.
Yeah, that's how it goes typically.
And they come on the fly too. You never know what's coming because they're trying to make you laugh. I made Cornette laugh once. He told me that backstage that Lance Cade and Mark Jindrak would never see a day in the WWE. He said, your streak is over, Bolin. He says, finally, I've got a couple here that are never going to make it to the WWE. I said, Cade and Jindrak? I said, you do realize Jindrak was already in WCW? He said, yeah, and that's why he's here. He ain't worth a shit. He said, your streak's over, Bolin. They'll never see a day in the WWE. I said, I tell you what. I said, you give me 6 weeks and I'll have both of them in the WWE. And normally they were expected to be there 2 years. And both of them had been with me for a little while, but it certainly hadn't been very long. So he said, 6 weeks you're on. And of course, there was no financial bet or anything. It was just a side bet that I could do it. And if I didn't, he was going to laugh at me. So 3 weeks goes by, and then I come out to do my interview, and we realize that Lance Cade and Mark Jindrak aren't with me. So I'm coming out to do the promo, and it's supposed to be me, Cade, and Jindrak to talk about an upcoming Six Flags show. So I come out by myself, and I couldn't have been smiling bigger. Jimmy has no idea what I'm going to say. I have no idea what he's going to say. So I get in the ring, and he says, well. And this is the day I became the StarMaker. If it isn't the old StarMaker, he said, it looks like you've done it again. He says, I notice you're out here by yourself tonight with the head nurse Lulu. Can I ask you where Lance Cade and Mark Jindrak are? Or I guess I already know your answer. I said, well, I can tell you exactly where they are. They're not with me here tonight. They're going to be appearing on SmackDown and Raw this week, respectively. And I said, remember a little bet you made with me backstage where you said that Caden Jindrak would never see a day in the WWE, that your streak is over. You're never going to get those two boys in the WWE. And I told you that I would have them there in 6 weeks. And look here, Jimmy, voila, 3 weeks later, I've got them. And I said, when I told you I'd get them there, you looked at me like I had a smoking turd in my mouth, Jimmy. And then Jimmy busts up. He starts laughing. And you can see him laughing because this interview's on TV and on video. And you can see him laughing and backing off camera. Mm-hmm. And I get to the back, Danny Davis says, do you realize you are the only person in the history of wrestling ever to accuse somebody of having a smoking turd hanging out of their mouth? And then Lawler heard about it, and Lawler calls me. He says, why would you accuse somebody of having a smoking turd in their mouth? I said, well, because it seemed to fit the situation. He said, well, congratulations on being the only one ever to get that over on television. I said, well, I'll take it as an honor. So that was the only time that I would get Jimmy to smirk and smile a lot, but to actually break out in laughter, that was the only time. And he just got off camera before everybody saw him dying laughing. And but Caden Jindrak made it. I got him there in 3 weeks and not 6. And then the streak just continued after that till we got to 54.
Nice.
Now, we're going to cover Lance Cade also in a different episode. Is there any stories about Lance that you'd like to share?
Oh, he was another one. He was another one that called me Dad. Rico called me Dad, and he was only a year younger than me. Lance called me Dad, and he was he and I were very close. He said I kind of took the place of his father when he was up here, and then of course Lance got hurt and got hooked on painkillers. He was working a match with Bob Holly. Apparently, Bob Holly was on drugs of some type. This is according to Lance Cade, and I've heard Rico back the story up and a few others. And that Holly was hurt and pilled up, and he hurt Cade, which caused Cade to get hooked on painkillers. And when Lance announced that he was going into rehab, WWE let him go. I think they paid for his rehab, or they were going to, but they were in the process of letting him go. He says, I'm honest with these people. I tell them what happened. And then they want to end my career because I'm honest and do what they tell us to do is get into rehab and get it fixed. Mm-hmm. So he did like a 2-hour show with me, and he ratted out everybody that was involved, including Bob Holly. And unfortunately, he went back to his father's and stayed there, and apparently overdosed on drugs and died in his father's bed. So it's a sad story that I've got, but they nicknamed him Big Bird because he had long, stringy hair, and he did look a lot like Big Bird. So they nicknamed him Big Bird, and I remember Dustin Cotton, who used to sit in the wheelchair in the front row, he would always bring a Big Bird to the shows and taunt Lance Cade with it. And I remember we was doing a Six Flags show, and he went out to ringside, and he took Big Bird away from Dustin and took it into the ring, and he dropped an elbow on it and a knee drop, and he's beating up Big Bird. So then he takes a steel chair, and he's going to pick the Big Bird up and swat it back into the Six Flags crowd. So he picked up and he swings the chair with all of his might, and what happened? Big Bird stuck in the gap in the chair. You know the gap where when you fold it together and there's that little hole in a folding chair? Well, Big Bird stuck in that hole. And he could not have looked like a bigger idiot that he could not even swat Big Bird back into the crowd. And it made the fucking show because now he's furious that Big Bird is stuck, and I had to take the chair away from him, and we can't get Big Bird out of the goddamn chair. And we're just milking it worth it. That Big Bird even got the best of Big Bird. And Dustin Cotton was dying that Lance could not swat his Big Bird back into the crowd. And Dustin called in on my show last night. He wants to buy a YouTube TV account from me. So some of the fans never go away. He's been watching those shows, I guess, since the late '90s. Mm-hmm. And he actually started coming to OVW, sitting front row when we had handicap access seating at the new Davis Arena, which was new in 2000 or so. Mm-hmm. I apologize for how bad my eyes are doing today, guys, but boy, it's they're having a rough day. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Lance was a hell of a guy, and it's awful sad that he's no longer with us. And I don't have Shad Gaspard with us anymore. He died recently trying to save his son from drowning. Mm-hmm. He did save his son, but he wasn't able to save himself. So he certainly died a hero. Had a guy named Horace with me. I can't remember his last name, but I had a wrestler named Horace with me that died many years ago. He wasn't one of my featured talents. He wasn't contracted, but he was a part. He was at the new building. He was kind of an enforcer, kind of a motorcycle gangster looking gimmick, and his name was Horace something. My son probably remembers his last name. It seems like his name was Horace. I could be wrong. He had a motorcycle looking gimmick. He was there when Jack Bull was there, if you remember that era.
Yes.
Managed by Sosei, and Sosei did a hell of a job with that gimmick as well. But no, was a great talent. He made it to the WWE and had a nice little run up there. I think they were tag champions for a little bit, and we lost him way too soon. I have outlived way too many of my wrestlers.
Yes. The whole purpose of this podcast is to shed some light on all the talent that came through OVW. Everybody always talks about the big four. We want to talk about everybody else that came through those doors.
Yeah. And everybody hears about Lesnar and Cena and Orton, who, like I said, just started recently following me on Twitter because I said some nice things about him on Sportskeeda. He just broke the record for most matches on Monday Night Raw. I don't know who tracks that shit. Jimmy was notorious for tracking every win and every loss, and he wanted to know why I didn't do that. Yeah. I said, well, because they're not real. I said, when I was in high school, I was 212-0. I said I was undefeated. I beat everybody I wrestled in every weight class. I said, why do I remember that? Because they were real. I took great pride in being 212-0. I don't know how many of these damn things we've won and lost. I don't know how many titles we've got. I don't know where we won them at, where we lost them at, because somebody else decided that. If they were shoot fights and we really beat Brockett and Shelton for the belts, then I guess that would mean something.
Yeah.
But Jimmy, they're not real. Who gives a shit? But Jimmy, who was not much of a fighter, never thrown or took a punch in his life that I know of, other than from me. And because we used to fight all the time as kids, and he probably racked up another 200 wins fighting Jimmy Cornette. But no, he took great seriousness in that, and he can tell you every title they won, where they won it at, what the attendance was, and I never gave a shit because it wasn't real. So someone else was telling me when we could win and lose. And somebody else told me that recently. Somebody in the WWE said, I didn't give a shit. They weren't real. I didn't really win the world title 16 times. They said I could have it 16 times, so.
I always heard if Bolin got 3 steps on you, it was over.
What's that now?
I've always heard that if you ever got 3 steps on somebody, it was over.
The 3 steps of doom. Cornette told that to Joey Mercury, whatever his name was. He really thought he was a big star when he went to WWE, but they were still having to come back here and do TV tapings on Wednesdays. And I was sitting down in the back because my health was horrible then, man. I was sneaking up on 500 pounds then. I couldn't stand for 30 seconds shit, but due to how bad my knees and back are, I still can barely stand for 30 seconds. And so Joey thinks he's a big star, and he comes back. Now, and we have since patched up our differences. I'm not trying to bury Joey Mercury, but he was in the back, and we were out of chairs, because not only did we have the full OVW staff, but a lot of the WWE guys would come back down. Well, if you're a healthy individual and you're in your teens or 20s or 30s, then yeah, I guess maybe you can move over and make a seat for Joey Mercury. I wasn't going to be the one. I was in my fucking 50s by then, or sneaking up on it, in bad health, and I needed a goddamn chair. So I'm sitting in the chair, and so he's back there, and he's not saying anything to me directly, but he's making insults, talking about fat managers and pieces of shit and all this. He said, a lot of guys move over and give the fucking star a chair. And I'm ignoring him, and he's a fat fucking piece of shit, and he'd stand behind me. He wouldn't say it to me directly, but he was making sure I heard what he was saying. Mm-hmm. And he keeps running his fucking mouth, and he keeps talking shit. And I stood up. I said, Joey, have you got something you want to say to me directly? I said, feel free to say it. I said, that is my chair. I've been in this company since fucking day one, and I ain't giving up the goddamn chair for you. I didn't say anything to you. I said, no, I heard your fucking mouth. I said, no, I'm going to sit back down. If you got something to fucking say to me, say it directly. So I sat back down. So some people go tell Cornette and Danny Davis that, hey, there's some heat blowing up with Joey and Kenny. And they said, man, we might have to save Kenny. Cornette says, no, you're not going to have to save Kenny. He said, if Joey keeps running his fucking mouth, he said, if Joey stands 3 feet away from Kenny and Kenny gets 3 steps on him, he's going through a wall. He said, we might have to save Joey, because Joey was not very big. And so Cornette called, and Cornette came out and told him, he said, man, shut your fucking mouth. Kenny's in bad health. Be a fucking decent guy. And Kenny's keeping his chair. Shut the fuck up and go wrestle your match. Yeah, that's all right. Just doing the show for these guys here. And it's recorded. And when I'm telling the story about Joey Mercury, they were talking about the 3 steps of doom. Oh. I said, so you've heard about that. So, well, we passed up our day. He came over and apologized to him. So at a Six Flags show, Joey actually, he's walking over to me, and I haven't seen Joey in a year or two. And he's walking over to me. I said, oh, shit, we're going to start this shit again. And I'm sitting on the bench, and he comes over, and he says, Kenny, he said, I just wanted to let you know there's Scooby. I told you you'd see him eventually. He says, Kenny, I want you to know that I wasn't very good to you a couple of years ago, and I was a different person then. He said, I found Jesus. I'm not that person anymore, and I just hope you'll accept my apology. I said, yeah, Joey, that's fine. I understand. And so we made up our differences then, but no, I didn't think too much of him the day he was wanting me to get out of a chair just so the big WWE star could have a seat.
Yeah.
Because Joey, even during that time, he still treated me great. In practice,
did he really?
In training and in practice, he was nothing but gold to me.
Well, I'll be damned. Yeah, Chris said that Joey was always good to him in training and practices. And
Joey made sure I learned more than anybody else.
And he could have just been in a mood that day. And for the most part, Joey was always a pretty good guy. But when he came back down from being in WWE, did we have anything we needed to cover?
Nothing important. I just need HDMI. I just need an HDMI cable.
All right. I'll find you one. I'll have it for you in a little bit. All righty. Yeah, my son needs a cable. I'll find it for him here in a little bit. Needs an HDMI cable. So there you go. So the Prince draw. So the Prince loved Joey Mercury. So we got that on the record.
I think one of the most depressing things being from Southern Indiana was seeing all this talent that you guys worked with, that you help mold, and then they get shot up on TV.
And they're given a terrible gimmick. That's what I hated.
I know that we seen it more than most people because OVW came to our town.
Yeah. Well, the ones that got fucked over the worst was the team that had the boas and the feathers. What were they called?
The Heartthrobs.
Heartthrobs. Yeah. They probably got fucked over the most. They got over like $1 million down here. Shit, they were boosting attendance everywhere we would go. Everybody wanted to see the Heartthrobs. WWE gets them, and for whatever reason, they just fucked the whole thing up, and it never worked. And Cornette was furious that they never got over up there. But it wasn't their fault. They did everything they were supposed to do. They just fucked it up.
Is there any talents in particular? I know this is an open-ended question because there's so many that you really feel like they really dropped the ball on. I know there's so many.
Sylvester Turkey would be one. They wanted him tagging with Elijah Burke. And I think Burke would have been better on his own. And I think Sly Turkey would have been better on his own. Burke wouldn't hurt to have a manager for Burke, Sylvester. He wasn't the greatest promo in the world, but he was a legit badass, and he had the look, and he had done that kind of MMA style fighting over in Japan. And he had a history. So he's the one they probably dropped the ball on the most. If they'd have put just even an adequate manager with him, he would have been fine. And I'm not even saying me, because you need probably the smallest manager in the world. Somebody like Morris, I had Morris with me. Somebody like Morris would have been the perfect manager for him, who could have been a bit of a voice piece, and to make Sly Turkey look even bigger. Morris would have been perfect for that.
I enjoyed his look in 01, where they had him looking like Bruiser Brody. He just looked like just a beast. And then, without a doubt. I tell you what, let's do 3 more questions, guys, and that'll get us very close to the 1 hour mark. I'd stay longer, but my eyes are just having a real tough time today. You've always, remained relevant, whether it was getting mentioned at the Hall of Fame, doing the Stone Cold podcast. Even his show on the network.
Stone Cold and Bobby Lashley mentioned me just the other day. And then, of course, Charlotte Flair name dropping me on TV the other day. Talking about the StarMaker. Who else would she have been talking about? I've been the StarMaker for a long time. Had to have been me.
Your legacy, you really are, in my opinion, one of the greatest managers of all time.
Oh, yeah.
The talents you helped.
Well, I agree with you, and so does Bobby.
I figured you would.
One of the reasons I became a manager in wrestling is because of watching you as a kid.
Well, I appreciate that. No, I'm very proud of the body of work that we did here. I would have loved to have had more worldwide television time, but I'm all over the WWE network. They don't play me talking because they'll have to pay me. But people are there, and anybody that watches the podcast, hey, it's Bolin. That's the guy that does those. Because more people know me as a podcaster now than they do a wrestling manager. But I think most people that listen to the show know the history. Why else would we talk about wrestling that much? So,
just about any time that they've ever mentioned OVW, you've always been included.
As a matter of fact, I think they're getting ready to have John Cena on Steve Austin's show here very soon. I heard they had to cancel the first one. Something came up scheduling wise, and it was very nice for Steve Austin and Bobby Lashley to mention me recently. I thank both of them for doing that, and Steve probably knows me very well from the podcast world. But Rico and I also worked an angle with Steve Austin at Louisville Gardens many years ago. Back around, I guess, 2001 or so, if I had to guess.
I just watched that.
Steve's always, and of course, I did Steve Austin's show twice. One of those shows was a Walking Dead episode.
I just watched the Ruthless Aggression season 2, and you were all over that
I haven't got to watch 1 or 2 yet. How many times do I pop up in season 2? I hear I was in season 1 quite a bit, but I haven't seen them yet.
The very last episode's about OVW, and you're almost in every scene.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess I'll have to show. So, how many episodes of it are there?
I think there's 5 for season 2.
5 for season 2, and am I in many of the first 4 seasons, or just mainly the not seasons but episodes, or just mainly the 5th?
I think mainly the 5th.
Okay, well, I'll have to check that out. I didn't even see season 1. Is there a particular episode I'm in season 1, or is it kind of all throughout?
It's all throughout, and then when they teased season 2, it was all OVW, like in the trailer. So I immediately
that's how I knew it was coming out. People were sending me the trailer, and I was getting screenshots from the trailer. So I posted some of those screenshots on Twitter.
Yeah,
and I think I actually posted the video on Twitter as well, the trailer through Facebook. Yeah. So I'll have to check that out. It's amazing that I've been retired since 2012, but people like Steve Austin and JBL and Honky Tonk Man and Dutch Mantel and these people still have contact with me, even though I was never a big a deal on TV as they were. They respect what I did, and Dutch Mantel said that he and I could get more heat just walking down in the word than most of the guys can do today, giving them a 20-minute promo. And that was a talent there from Jerry Lawler. Just get the most out of what you got to work with.
Absolutely.
Well, we don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Yep.
Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You're very welcome.
Safe to say your legacy will be around for a long, long time.
There's a lot of video out there. Some of the things I'm more proud of on YouTube is if you YouTube search Kenny Bolin versus John Cena, you will see me in a match with John Cena. I won't bother to tell you who won that match. There's a match with me and there was a match with me and Jerry Lawler at Six Flags that I didn't realize that I won the match, but somebody sent me the record books and says Kenny Bolin defeats Jerry the King Lawler. I said, really? I said, how'd that happen? And it turned out Lawler got disqualified for trying to pile drive me, so I won the match, and I didn't even know it. And the Mark Cuban thing, to where me and Mark Cuban, where I introduced him to John Cena for the first time, that's a funny video as well. And all that's on YouTube, and then me and John Cena in a rap battle, and all the shit we've done. So there's a ton of stuff on video. So even when I'm dead and gone, there's plenty of stuff to watch. And God, I think we've now done way over 1,200 episodes of the Bowlin Alley now.
I was about to
so
say,
there's a lot of shit out there to see.
Say, get your social media out there. Let everybody know
it's
your social media.
Yeah, and make sure to tune into my podcast, especially you don't want to miss next Tuesday night, 8:05 p.m. It's going to be the Honky Tonk Man and Kenny Bolin for 2 hours. And if I know me and Honky Tonk, it might go longer than that. But he dedicated himself for 2 hours. Watch last night's part 1 show. There's a 2-part show because we had a video glitch during the show, first time ever. And Honky Tonk was with us for about an hour last night, just laying the groundwork for what we're going to talk about Tuesday. And he says he's got a beef with Jimmy Cornette that he's going to cover on my show next week.
Wow.
Tuesday night, that he's got some shit about Jimmy he wants to get off his chest. I said, well, you came to the right place to do it.
Yeah, make sure you go check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. He says there's a lot of people in the wrestling business that ain't going to like what he has to say next week. So we're very anxious to see what the Honky Tonk Man has to say.
Well, we'll be sure to direct everybody your way next Tuesday.
And the Bowlin Alley is easy to find. It's youtube.com/the Bowlin Alley. If you want to look for me on social media, anything that says StarMaker Bowlin, that's probably me. For anybody who wants to donate to my Filipino fundraiser charities, you can do that at kennybolin@msn.com. For the PayPal address, you can also PayPal it to starmakerbowlin@gmail.com. And on Cash App, you can use $StarMakerBowlin for Cash App. Otherwise, watch my show, and you can just donate through Super Chats. And you said you guys will be watching the show tonight if I do one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. We want to thank Kenny Bolin for coming on today. Be sure to visit his show on YouTube, The Bowlin Alley.
Absolutely.
Well, don't thank me yet. I remember the agreement we made for me to do this show. I'm checking my PayPal. I see nothing. This is bullshit. This is absolutely bullshit. You told me it was already in there, and I'm checking inbox. I'm checking PayPal, Cash App. No, nothing. Nothing.
It's nice talking to you, Kenny. Have a good one. Bye. Hey, everybody. It's Morty.
It's Brian.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Developmentally Speaking.
If you could, please click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to punch that bell icon so you can get notified whenever we go live or drop a new video every Monday. Well, thanks for watching, guys. And we'll see you on the next
Developmentally Speaking.